Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da. Domo arigato, geek to me radio, da 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 da.
Welcome, geeks and nerds, girls and boys, to a brand new edition of Geek to Me Radio. Today we've got Terrificon owner Mitch Hallock on, talking all about his fantastic event coming up the end of this month. Then later on in the hour, we'll be joined by Dean Devlin, talking all about the 25th anniversary of Independence Day and his brand new series, Leverage Redemption. Stand by.
We're talking TV, comics and movies, and video games. And if you don't know Star Trek and Star Wars, we'll try to explain. There are 12 doctors for Hogwarts houses, one ring rules them all. To be the greatest Pokemon master, you must catch them all. You must catch them all. Try to catch them all. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
And for those of you driving around the greater St. Louis area, hearing us on the Big 550 KTRS, thank you very much for tuning in tonight. For those of you who are streaming us out there in the world via the World Wide Web, thank you for finding us and tuning in. And, of course, if you're listening to this after the fact in the podcast on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Stitcher, wherever you get your podcast from, thank you very much for tuning in there and subscribing and listening each week. A full show tonight with two great guests. We're going to dive right in with Mitch Hallock. We've had him on not too long ago, talking about his event Terrificon, which, no lie, is one of the best events I've ever attended. Mitch, how are you?
I'm really good, James. How are you tonight, sir?
Doing well. Thanks again for the time. I know we had you on last, it was about 2 months ago, I guess, and we talked about the event, but you've added so many people since then. I had to get you back on to kind of talk about the new additions and just to remind people that tickets are still available. They can get up there to Uncasville, which is a gorgeous location. Talk a little bit about, it's got to be very exciting and a little bit nerve-wracking. You're coming into the home stretch now. It's less than 3 weeks away till the show. How are you feeling?
Oh, pretty good. Actually, it's 2 weeks.
Less than two,
today.
That's right.
The show, it'll be wrapping up, but this time 2 weeks from now, the Terrificon 2021 will be part of history, and I'll be working on 2022 already. But it is like getting back on a horse if you or a bicycle, one of those things that just muscle memory. It all comes back to you. I am so looking forward to the show, and I'm actually having a great time putting the finishing touches on the panel programming, like all the special Q&A discussions that the fans get to have with the professionals and the comic creators and the actors. That's really become a highlight of my life right now, just coming up with good ideas that fans want to sit there and be part of.
And with all the people you've got between the voice actors and then the writers and artists from the comics, there's so many different panel combinations. Like, you could, with all the people you've got, you could probably do 3 different Daredevil panels just between Klaus and Lee Weeks and DG and everybody else who's going to be there.
Well, you know what's fun? We actually came up with a couple panels where if you're interested in becoming a comic book creator or you've ever wondered how these guys and gals do it, we've got that. There's a particular panel that I'm thinking of late Saturday evening. It's one of the last ones of the day. It's creating comics. And on that panel, it's an all-star guest list of Jimmy Palmiotti, Amanda Connor, Klaus Janson, Lee Weeks, Sean Crystal, Dave Johnson. I mean, it's like, you know, the all-star team of comic book creators, and they're up there, and they'll tell you what do they do when they're sitting in front of a blank page and they have to come up with a fantastic story that's going to thrill readers. And it's just great to get a view on how that world works.
And there's, all the different, the experience level of these people, you could probably have these people there every weekend and teach a master class in writing or drawing or how to break into comic books. So that's one of the things with the level of talent you've got. These panels are worth it, just the trip for that alone.
Yeah, and then we have C.B. Cebulski, who's the editor-in-chief of Marvel Comics, who's coming down to the show from New York, and he's going to even run a couple panels, not just what's new at Marvel Comics, but he's going to interview Donny Cates, one of the top writers at Marvel right now, who's responsible for Venom, Thor. He's done Guardians of the Galaxy. He's all over the place, and he's going to sit down and let fans know what he's got coming. Plus, don't forget, besides comic book creators, we have actors from the movies based on comic books, like Michael Rooker, who plays Yondu, and he was also Merle in The Walking Dead. He's going to be up on stage all by himself, talking to fans about his life, his career in movies, from everything from Guardians of the Galaxy to JFK to Mallrats. I mean, you name it. He's been in more movies than I could think of. And it's always fun to have Michael Rooker as part of the show.
And then, obviously, with the Walking Dead connection, too, you've got Ross Marquand played the Red Skull in Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, so there's another Marvel Walking Dead crossover there. But it's some really A-list talent, and Sean Gunn, obviously, from Guardians of the Galaxy and everything like that. And plus, you've got the Land of the Lost reunion, which is really cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Something for everybody. I mean, just any fandom you could possibly be interested in, it seems like that must be very hard to do also, to pick, like, okay, we need something from this, something from this. You've got the wrestlers who will be there as well.
It is. It's really hard because there's only so many panel slots I have, and I want to do it. And I've even split the panel room into two just to accommodate all the talent that's in the house, because we have voiceover folks from the Batman animated series. We have the Justice League United series. We have Thundercats. We have Power Rangers. We have folks from Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, and they're all there, and you want to get an opportunity to have them up on stage so fans can sit there, ask questions. What was it like behind the scenes? How was it like to put the show together? What are your vivid memories? What's your favorite show? Those are the type of things I try to get. And like I said, when you look back at Terrificon, it's only about 17 or 18 hours. So it's very hard to compress all that talent and all those creative folks into just a brief amount of time and give the fans what they want. But I think I've been doing a pretty good job of it for 9 years now. It'll be 10 years next year.
Yeah, it's hard to believe it's been that long. You've also got, I believe is it Joe Simon's grandson who will be there?
Yeah, Jesse Simon. Yeah, a young man called me up all the way from Brooklyn, and he said, "Hey, my name's Jesse Simon. You might have heard of my granddad, Joe Simon." And I go, I certainly have, son. And then realizing that it's the 80th anniversary of Captain America, so what better way to celebrate the legacy of the Star-Spangled Avenger but have the grandson of one of the original creators, along with Jack Kirby, Joe Simon. They're the ones that came up with Cap in 1941. So young Jesse's going to be on hand, and he's going to talk about the things that his granddad did for the character, plus some of the other creations folks might not remember that Joe Simon brought to the world of comicdom. Everything from the Shield, the Fighting American, the Fly, that type of stuff. So there's a lot going on there.
Yeah, I'll bet he's going to have some amazing stories to tell.
Yeah. It's one of those things. There's one thing to read a book, but there's another thing to have somebody whose granddad was the fellow that thought of Cap, and you see him all the time. It's like,
right.
Oh, well, yeah, that's, I know a lot of behind-the-scenes stories that you might not be aware of. So, yeah, definitely so. And as I spoke about learning how to be part of the comic book industry, we have an artist named Koi Pham who's worked on a lot of books for Marvel over the years. He's actually going to be teaching a class on Sunday morning called Drawing with Integrity or Drawing with Determination. Or I can't think of the title right off the top of my head. But, again, when you get an opportunity to have an A-list Marvel artist sit down with you and actually pick up a pencil and discuss on how he goes about drawing and creating comic book art. So that's just – I wish I was in there. If I wasn't running around doing the show, I would be sitting in there and taking notes.
I was going to say that you've got to be at some point. You put all this together. You create all this. It must be nice to be able to enjoy it, but you're running around overseeing everything. You're pulling all the levers. You're pressing the buttons. You're making everything run smoothly. That's got to be. You create this whole thing, and obviously you get enjoyment out of it. But it's hard, you can't enjoy it as a fan does, and it's kind of sad.
No, it is. It's a bittersweet job I have here. I plan for it all year. I promote it for months, obviously. And then when it happens, it's like a wedding. You're the main attraction. You can't be part of everything. You're lucky if you get one dance, a slice of cake, and you get to kiss the bride. And that's all you have. It's all memories, friends, and 8x10s. You don't see any of it. And I literally go and watch YouTube videos that the fans make or some podcasters or radio folks like yourself put together. And that's how I know what happened at the show, because I'm literally one person inside a 350,000 square foot building, spinning plates the entire 18 hours of the show for 3 days and making sure none of them come crashing down. And it's exhausting. But yeah, I wish I could be part of my own show. It's weird, but it's the curse of running a good show, I guess.
And then, obviously, you'll see all the posts on social media, and you can kind of maybe see if you can spot Mitch in the background as he runs back and forth furiously.
Yeah. It is funny to get fans that come to the show that actually want to get pictures, and I still haven't wrapped my head around that yet. Like, I've signed autographs in the last couple of years. I've actually taken photos with folks, and I guess that's a good thing, but it is kind of weird because I go, hey, I'm just the guy that puts the show together. Those are the folks that you want to meet. If that was the case, then I'd stop flying people in. I'll just sit there all day and sign autographs. But I don't think we'd get 20,000 people to see me.
You can set your table up right next to Larry Kenny's, and then that way you can come and see you and get your autographs as well.
We'll have a good time. Maybe I'll start doing voiceover on cartoons.
There
next.
you go.
I'll be Minnow, Lino's brother.
Perfect. And obviously, we talked about the panels and everything, but this is a great way. Yeah. You mentioned all these guests. You can come see these guests, and just like a regular convention, get the professional photo ops taken with them. You can get regular table selfies with most of them there, and get their autographs on stuff and things like that. And obviously, there's all the comic creators and artists, and Jerry Ordway, Dan Jurgens, Donnie Cates, you mentioned. All these other people there as well. And then if you're looking for something, Comic Cons are always a great place to shop because you've got all the vendors there who come from literally miles away to set up at your show.
Yeah, across the country. I've got folks coming in from California, Florida, Texas, not only just comic book vendors, but people that collect everything from statues, Funko Pops, original artwork, cool clothing, rare books. It's amazing the amount of shopping you can do if you're a geek and you're into all this nerd stuff. My goodness, it's like a dream come true, And get ready to spend some money. That's for sure,
Yeah, I usually try to bring 2 carry-ons, one full of the stuff I want to have signed, and an empty one so I can bring a bunch of stuff back as well.
I know. It's cool. I mean, that's a great thing, too, because if you are local like me, you could park your car right outside and you could just keep coming and going like, oh, wait, let me run out to the car and drop off that Captain America statue. Oh, and I'm coming back and getting that Lego Batcave. Wait a minute. I want the Jabba the Hutt sail barge that's 4 feet long.
Oy.
I think I'll tie that to the roof of my car. So, yeah, I've seen people do that. I've seen people literally come out with those luggage carriers full of signed comic books and statues and posters. And, oh, my goodness. And plus, we forgot to mention that besides, shopping and artists and actors and autographs and all that, I often make this big displays that the fans could take pictures of that don't cost anything.
Yeah.
We have a giant 16-foot Thanos statue. This year, because it's the 40th anniversary of Raiders of the Lost Ark, we built our own Ark of the Covenant.
Oh.
We've got the cars from the movies. We've got Back to the Future, Herbie the Love Bug, Jurassic Park vehicles, the 66 Batmobile. There's just a whole side of the building. I mean, like I said, it's 3 football fields long that just has nothing but displays of cool props and cars and statues, and you could just walk around there and take photographs all weekend long, and it's not going to break the bank or anything like that. And then there's the cosplayers. We didn't even talk about the folks that are going to be walking around in the costumes that they've been working on for the last year and a half, waiting to show off what they have. So that's a whole other aspect to the show.
And I know you've added some people at the last minute, like not last minute per se, but just last. I was so thrilled. I've never had the chance to meet Larry Stroman. I love the run he and Peter David did on X Factor, but he's a prolific artist. He's worked on so many projects. And is there still a chance you might add a few more people in the coming weeks here before we launch into it?
What happens is this is the down home stretch, and I literally get phone calls from folks that are, hey, heard about the show, wonder if you can find me a table, and I always do. So you know what? I'm never going to say never. I'm not going to say the guest list is closed because in the next 10 days, I still might add somebody. So be ready to be surprised if you see a guest at the last minute. I mean, that's how we got Chaz Palminteri a couple years ago. I think it was like 3 weeks before the show. He called up. Heck, when we had Henry Winkler, that was only Ralph Macchio. That was a month before the show, and Ralph called up and just showed up at the show. So
wow.
You never know who's going to pop up at the Mohegan Sun.
And it's
Once
like
we
I said,
had Alice Cooper.
Who?
We had Alice Cooper the day of the show.
Oh, wow.
In 2015, Alice Cooper was there because there's an arena rock concert part of the building, and he was there performing and we got a call that he's a big comic book fan, and he's in the hotel that night to perform, but he said, hey, can I come to Terrificon? And of course you can come to Terrificon, Mr. Cooper. And he showed up, and there he was, Alice Cooper. I mean, he just literally came down, walked around, and left, and it was very surreal. But like I said, you never know who's going to walk through those doors at Terrificon.
And it's very centrally located because I know you're very close to, I think when I was looking to flights in, Boston Logan and then the Hartford BDL and then Providence, Rhode Island, you're right there at any of those three is about equidistance, more or less, from the convention. So it's convenient to fly into any one of those and just head right into the resort.
Yeah, it's about 45 minutes from the Providence or the Hartford airport, maybe about an hour or so from the Boston one. But, yeah, we're in a great location right off the highway. And like you said, it's the second largest casino resort in the entire country. There's plenty of hotels. There's plenty of stuff to do. There's plenty of restaurants and nightclubs and things to do after Terrificon. So it's like a Disney World for everyone, kids too, because there's a Kids Quest arcade section to that whole complex. So there's always something to do at the Mohegan Sun.
Now, I know last time we talked, you said you were kind of like almost outgrowing the space that was there. Is there any thought to whether or not you'll need a larger space for the next year, maybe the year after that or so?
Well, we've already discussed that. I've filled their expo center, which is 300,000 square feet, and there's a convention center where we used to do Terrificon, which is still attached to the building, and that's another 80,000 square feet. That's where I do my other show, Connecticut GamerCon, in the fall. And there was a thought, and I'm trying to still work my way around the logistics of it all, like, what if, like the Marvel, what if we did Terrificon here, but then did a whole anime gaming show in the convention center? And that way you buy one ticket. It's like when you go to Disney World, you have Epcot, you have MGM Studios, you have Disney World, you have Jungle Kingdom or Animal Kingdom. So you have different types of shows. And I thought maybe we do the comic one here, and then in the other convention area, we do an anime, video game, tabletop gaming, and we just take over the whole complex.
Here you go.
For the whole weekend. Yeah, and it's not that hard, actually. It sounds daunting, but I've done both, so now it would just be putting them on at the same time. So it could be done. It could be done.
Add a few more plates for you to spin.
A few more plates and a few more guests, and, why not? And then they have that big arena where they do the rock concerts. Who knows? Maybe one day we'll do that, too. We'll have a live stage show. We'll have, like, Guardians of the Galaxy on ice or Avengers Infinity War, the movie. Or the stage play, and we'll do something like they did that Spider-Man play years ago.
That's right. Turn off the dark.
I'll be swinging from the ceiling. Yeah. You know what? I mean, every year you always got to up the ante. You always got to top yourself. So I try to every year to make it different than the year before. So, I mean, it might sound a little wacky, but don't think I haven't thought of it. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
And we've got just a few minutes left with you here. I want to ask what your thoughts were on Black Widow, how you enjoyed that, because we haven't talked since that came out.
Oh, I loved it. I took my wife and my son. We went for my birthday. It's a tradition here. And it was great to see the Marvel logo come across the screen. The crowd broke out in cheers, and I was loving every minute of it. It had a very cool Roger Moore, James Bond retro feel to parts of it. And, we already knew what was going to happen to the characters, so there was a little suspense taken away, but they introduced a bunch of new characters that were just as great. And a couple of them I wouldn't mind seeing have their own Disney Plus TV series, so I hope they come back again. The Red Guardian, he was my favorite.
Yeah.
But I loved it. I can't wait. And I'm glad that Loki just finished up. Well, I'm not glad it finished up, but that is great. And then What If starts, and then we got Shang-Chi. The Eternals. It's going to be a great year for everybody, not just comic conventions like me, but going back to the movies and seeing these big screen epics.
Yeah, I think I mentioned in one of my tweets earlier, I said that in 1 week in August, we're going to have James Gunn's Suicide Squad, Stargirl Season 2 debuts, and then we roll right into What If. That's like, if you would have told my 9-year-old self that would have been a thing on TV and movies, I never would have believed you.
No, it is fantastic there. I mean, it's great. And you know what? You got Dean Devlin coming on. I had a great opportunity to interview him a couple years ago about leverage, actually, and he was at New York Comic Con. But when you get a chance to talk to Dean, ask him about his stand-up comedy career.
Okay.
Because there was a brief moment in life where he was a stand-up comic, and I want to see if he gets a chuckle out of that, because I sat next to him and asked him, and he just looked at me. He's like, "You knew about that?" I'm like, "I do my research."
Did you see him perform? No. Did you actually get a chance to check him out?
I don't know. No, I never did personally. I wonder how many nights he actually did the stand-up, but I know he did do it. You know what? I loved his big epic movies. I love the Independence Day. I love all that crazy stuff that was on the screen in the epic. We need to have him go back to the big screen. I would love him do a superhero movie.
Yes.
A big, epic, sprawling, special effects, over the head, over the top. Like I don't know. The Marvel Comics had a series called Annihilation a couple years ago, which was this big cosmic Kree-Skrull massive battle thing going on with the Nova Corps and everything. They'd be cool for something like that, you know? So
yeah, definitely.
Maybe.
With all of he's got going, he's in that world. Like, you can watch Leverage and pick out the Doctor Who and the Star Trek references that he throws in and stuff like that. So it would be great to see him take on one of those particular types of movies. Actually, hang on just 1 second. Hang on just 1 second, because I think, if I'm not mistaken, we're going to try this live on the air. I think I've got Dean calling in right now.
Okay.
Is this Dean? Hello? Okay, perfect. I'm going to take you live on air right now. Let me plug you on here. Make sure I don't drop you. Hold on. Okay, so Dean, you can hear me as well now, right?
I can.
Dean, I've got Mitch Hallock, my guest from Terrificon, and he had a very interesting question for you as we're kind of talking about leading up to you being here. Mitch, if you want to go ahead and ask him yourself.
Okay, Dean. I was at New York Comic Con a couple years ago when I wasn't promoting my convention, but I sat next to you. We were doing a round table, and I mentioned to you, do you recall your days when you did stand-up comedy? And was there any chance you could ever go back to that? And I think you looked at me like I had six heads.
Well, I'm really grateful for the days that I used to do stand-up, and it was an amazing time to do stand-up. It taught me a lot about comedy and audience reactions. But, man, that's a tough profession. That's a tough profession. Okay. You got to deal with a lot of angry people. So, no, I don't think I'd ever want to go back to that.
I never thought of it that way, but you're right. There is a lot of anger when you got a cover and a 2-drink minimum, I suppose.
Oh, boy.
That's great. Again, Terrificon is coming up July 30th through August 1st. Tickets are still available at Terrificon.com. Mitch, you do a brilliant job putting this on every single year, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here at the end of the month.
All right, I will see you. And heck, bring Dean Devlin along, too. Why not come to Connecticut, Mohegan Sun? The more the merrier. There's a surprise guest. Come on down.
You got it.
Thanks, Mitch.
All
Take
right.
care. Have a great rest of the night.
You too. Take care, guys. Bye.
And we won't even hit commercial break. We'll just transition right into my next guest who's with me. Leverage Redemption. The first 8 episodes are out on IMDb TV, which you can access through a multitude of devices, through your Amazon Prime account or whatever. Dean, how are you?
I'm very well. Thanks for having me on tonight.
Oh, so good to have you. I know last time we had you on, we were talking about, I believe we were discussing Almost Paradise. And here we are once again. You are bringing some fantastic stuff to TV. And this has to be, I think, probably the question you get asked the most is, when is Leverage coming back? When is Leverage coming back? So it seems like the fans have taken well to its return.
Well, it's amazing because every single day, every day since the show was originally canceled, I got nothing but emails and DMs and texts. When are you bringing it back? We want Leverage back. I need my Leverage back. And so now, after all this time, we're so grateful. We put up 8 episodes, and within 24 hours, the fans had watched all 8 and started DMing me, when are we getting the next 8?
That's the kind of reaction you want, though, obviously. And was there any thought in your head that, you know what, let's drip them out like the Disney Plus shows are doing, 1 each week? Or was it kind of like, let's drop the first 8 now? What was the mindset back and forth between that idea?
We really had no input on that. We've got these amazing partners at IMDb and Amazon. And, look, I have a lot of experience with, cable television and broadcast. But streaming, is a whole new animal. So we just left that in their hands, and they came up with the idea of splitting the 16 episodes into 2 parts and dropping the first 8, and it seems to have worked. I mean, I have to say I'm kind of bowled over by both the critical and fan reaction.
Yeah, this is something that, like I just said, the fans have wanted for so long. And obviously there was kind of a lot of people were wondering what was with Timothy Hutton not being able to come back and everything, how that was going to be filled. But you had Noah Wyle, just the way his character was integrated, and it was very touching. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who hasn't yet seen it. Maybe people are waiting for whatever reason. The way you treated Timothy Hutton not being, and it was very heartfelt and wonderful. And that last episode, the mastermind job, was a very nice way to take care of his not being there as well.
Well, I think the thing is, the original show was a show driven by revenge. We had the Nate Ford character whose son had died tragically because the insurance company refused to pay for the experimental treatment. And he went on a crusade to enact vengeance against the powerful who take advantage of the powerless. And, over the course of those 77 episodes, we took that character through a complete arc. So, to start up again, we really needed a new engine, something that drove it. And, when it took a lot of different attempts before we finally came up with it. But once we have this idea of, well, what if the new show isn't about vengeance, but it's about redemption? It gave us a whole new way of telling Leverage without having to change most of the vital ingredients that you need to make this soup.
Yeah, and also, obviously, we had Aldous Hodge for the first 2 episodes, and I can only assume, my wife asked, she said, well, why isn't Hardison in the rest of these? I assume he's filming Black Adam, and that's why he wasn't able to do the other ones?
I got to tell you, he has overtaken James Brown as the hardest working man in show business. The guy has not had a day off since Leverage was canceled. He's just worked nonstop. He's had these tremendous roles in feature films and television series. And honestly, when I asked him if he would consider coming back, I just assumed he was going to be, sorry, pal, I'm a big movie star now. But he was like, listen, any moment I can squeeze out is yours.
Wow.
And it's incredible. And, he had this very grueling schedule working on his show in New York, the Showtime show, and he had only 1 week off before he goes from that to being the lead in a giant DC superhero movie.
Yeah.
You would think that he'd want a week to relax, but no, he gave us the week. He said, I'm in, shoot as much as you can with me, let's do it. And that's just the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, and I think you can tell certain actors who they do it because they love acting, they enjoy it, and everything I've seen him in, from back the original Leverage to Turn when he was in that, he just appears to be someone who really loves the craft.
He does, and he loves this family of people. They all grew really, really close making the original, and they've stayed close over the years. And I think he feels a very special place in his heart for Hardison, and I think just like the rest of us, he wasn't ready to say goodbye to Hardison either.
And then casting, obviously, a replacement. We had, I hope I'm pronouncing her name right, Aleyse Shannon?
Aleyse, yeah.
Aleyse Shannon. So she just, again, seamlessly fit in like she's been with the crew since the original series. I was blown away by her as well. Talk a little bit, if you could, about the casting process for the role of Brianna Casey and how she was the one who finally nailed it.
Well, I think you're asking a lot of an actor to come into a show where the rest of the cast has done 77 episodes together. Everybody else had this kind of relationship and this rhythm, and to step in and be able to play jazz music with the other actors, that's a high bar, especially when we were looking for a younger actor to do it. Mm-hmm. And we went through a lot of actors, and we met some really talented actresses. But when Aleyse showed up, she gave a stunning performance, which was actually spot on. But just to test her, I gave her a direction 360 degrees the opposite way, just to see what she would do. And without batting an eye, she gave me a completely different performance.
Wow.
So I did it again, and she gave me a third completely different performance. And we had her reading with Beth. And so Beth started riffing with her, and she went toe-to-toe with Beth. And at the end of that audition, Beth and I looked at each other and went, oh, my God, we found her.
Yeah, I mean, it's the way she is automatically gelled with the cast, who obviously they've, like you said, 77 episodes under their belt together. And then having Noah Wyle come in as the kind of the new outside guy. Obviously, Sophie's kind of taken over as the new mastermind. It's a very different dynamic for her, which she seems to be relishing in.
Yeah, I mean, the lucky thing for us is that Noah Wyle and I have been working together on The Librarian since 2004. Mm-hmm. And, so he's worked with the same crew, a lot of the same writers, so he had that tone. He had that rhythm down. But, you still don't know if things are going to gel. And I'll never forget the very first table read that we had to say the words out loud in front of the execs at IMDb TV. I was a nervous wreck because, how long is it going to take to knock the rust off? Are the new people going to be able to fit into the show? I was really shaking in my boots. And literally, when the first line of dialogue came out, it was as though there'd been a time machine. And not a second had passed from the last episode to this one starting. And the new actors just slid right in as though they had always been there. And all that rhythm was there. And that was the first moment where we all looked at each other and went, this might actually work.
And again, the first 8 episodes are out on IMDb TV. You can stream it right there. Looking forward to the next 8 episodes. I have to take a quick commercial break. Dean, are you okay to stick with me for a little while longer?
You got it.
Perfect. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to come right back chatting more with Dean Devlin all about Leverage Redemption. Please stand by.
Hi, this is Gates McFadden. Now, don't tell my space son, but I always listen to Geek to Me Radio. Do it.
And we're back. Want to make sure we tell you about our official movie sponsor, Marcus Theaters. MarcusTheaters.com is the website. You can find the location of the Marcus Theaters or Movie Tavern closest to you. You can buy your tickets right there online. There are a lot of great movies out there to be seen. You can see Black Widow, which was brilliant if you want to kind of get back into the Marvel Cinematic Universe a little bit. They've got a bunch of movies coming out. It almost feels like summer blockbuster season again with these new ones. Free Guy will be out soon. James Gunn's Suicide Squad is coming out next month. If you also want to download the app for your smartphone or device, the Marcus Theaters app will allow you to purchase your tickets. If you're out driving, you find the one closest to your current location. You can even order your concessions right there through the app, and they'll be ready and waiting for you when you arrive to pick up your movie tickets at the theater. It's always great to get out and see movies, and we know during the pandemic it was a dark time. We had to just stay at home and watch movies on TV. There's nothing like seeing a movie with a group in a large theater like that big group you saw Avengers Endgame with, and you had the crowd go nuts when Cap grabbed the hammer from Thor. That's the kind of experience. And if you're a little nervous, still gun-shy, maybe you can take your quarantine friends out. You can rent a private cinema starting at $99 and see a movie with you and 20 of your closest friends. It's always a good time. As we always say, it's the best movie-going experience in the galaxy. MarcusTheaters.com is the website, the official movie sponsor of Geek to Me Radio. We're chatting with Dean Devlin for the rest of the hour, all about Leverage Redemption. And we should mention The Outpost. Season 4 just came out, so kudos on that as well.
Thank you. We're really excited.
So when you're kind of almost juggling 2 series, that's got to be a lot to take on as well. I love that you mentioned on one of your Twitter feeds the one where you had French Stewart show up. You said that it's almost like Sophie and Elliot were dressed for The Outpost.
Yeah, it was crazy. We actually tried to see if we could get some of the costumes from Outpost sent for the episode, but they were still in the middle of shooting, and was like, no, we need the costumes here with us.
And is it so?
By the way, something that a lot of people don't know is that was not the first time I worked with French Stewart. The first time I worked with French Stewart was in a movie I did many years ago called Stargate, and that was the very first time he and I ever got to work together.
So was that? Did you think of him when the role for this came up? Did you think of him particularly?
Not at all. In fact, we had envisioned it entirely differently.
Huh.
And all of a sudden, an audition tape came in with French, and I was like, "Oh my God, French!" And he had this totally different take. than we had in our heads. And all of us, our jaws hit the floor. And we went, oh, my God, that's a genius way to do this. And so I called him up and I said, would you really come out to New Orleans during a pandemic and do this? And he goes, sure. So that was fantastic.
And I got to say, too, you've had different cities you filmed for the previous one. Obviously, you were up on the West Coast. New Orleans is one of my all-time favorite cities in the continental United States. So obviously it was during the pandemic, but I have to imagine the ambience itself is almost like a character in the show when you've got those gorgeous settings, and it was perfect for the Halloween episode you shot. Talk a little bit about switching locations from up in Portland down to New Orleans.
Well, New Orleans has always been a very special place. I mean, the first time I shot there was actually on the third Librarian movie, and we were there very shortly after Katrina. And to watch how the town was trying to recover and how they were helping each other and how grateful they were that we brought work, it made it a very special experience. And it was very similar this time because when we came down, New Orleans is a town that makes 90% of its money from tourism. Mm-hmm. And with the pandemic, they'd been shut down and people were out of work. And, when we showed up to do this show, we had something like 471 jobs. And the people were so grateful, and they worked together so well, and they protected themselves and they protected each other. It was such a spirit, that you never see other places, So
yeah.
In that regard, it was fantastic. But also I think the history of New Orleans is so right for our show in that New Orleans has always straddled the line between legal and illegal and virtuous and corrupt. So it really was the perfect home for our stories.
And with the pandemic, having to film stuff during the pandemic, was there one particular episode of let's say of the 8 we've seen so far that was harder to shoot than another for any particular reason?
Well, the Mastermind episode was very difficult because first, in prep, we had to shut down because there was this threat of a hurricane. Hmm. Then we started shooting it, and suddenly the numbers started spiking, because it was right after Thanksgiving and people, had gone to see their families and the numbers were spiking. And so we actually had to shut down because we were worried the wave was getting too big. So we just decided to wait until January, and then we all came back after January and tried to pick up from where we left off, which is very odd to do in the middle of an episode. But we got through it, and I think it's a lovely episode. I'm very pleased how that one came out.
Yeah, that was a beautiful tribute kind of on Sophie's anniversary that she got to pay tribute. And as she said, she got to do one last job with Nate Ford, which was it was a really kind of touching moment at the end of that.
Yeah, and, the thing for all these actors to get to have this dual thing with the guest lead in that, on one hand, it's bringing back all their most fond memories of the way the team used to function. And on the other hand, they resent this guy for trying to pretend that he is, their former partner. So it was right for comedy, but also for a lot of heart.
And as we came back from commercial break, we played the Gates McFadden return liner. I love the Star Trek references and the Doctor Who references that you always sprinkle in your stuff, like when Parker did the Picard tug. And you've got Hardison and Sophie saying that they're special agents Joe Grant and Alistair Lethbridge Stewart. Little things like that. That's just it's almost like your little fingerprint on the show. That's always fun to see those as well.
Well, I always feel like rather than pretending like we've made everything up for the first time and everything's entirely original, it's really good to keep pointing to the giants who paved the way and inspired you to make the stuff you make. And, I grew up on Star Trek, and I was a giant Doctor Who, and still am a giant Doctor Who fan. And the tone of those shows, the types of fans they have, that's what inspired us to want to make this show in the way that we made it.
And I know Jonathan Frakes has directed episodes for you in the past and everything like that. And then we've got other guest stars, I'm assuming, that are coming in the back 8. And again, I don't want you to spoil anything. I wouldn't ask you to do that. But I'm assuming there are some more surprises in store for the second set of episodes that will drop later this year.
Well, I'll say this. The back 8 are even better than the front 8. And there's some really terrific surprise guest appearances that I think the fans are going to just go crazy over. We
blew through those new 8 pretty quick, so I had to go back and start watching the original. I realized, I wonder if they're going to bring Sterling back somehow and things like that. So all these little things, I'm sure you're getting a lot of people asking, is this person coming back? Are we going to see more from this? So that's, I guess, kind of hard to, from your standpoint, pick who you're going to sprinkle in, how you're going to work this particular character in who is a fan favorite. That's got to be another challenge when you're looking at this series.
Well, I think it's creatively a challenge, but it was even more of a challenge during COVID.
Yeah.
Because remember, it wasn't just you fly someone in and they actually fly them home. You know, you had to fly them in early. They had to quarantine. They had to get tested several times. And then you couldn't just fly them home right away. They had to get tested again. And so it was such a rigorous process and an expensive process on a show that, it's not the Game of Thrones type money.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was very difficult to produce the show. And that included being able to include all the actors we would have liked to have had.
And for those of you listening right now, too, I should have mentioned this earlier. If you would like to text us a question, if you have a question you'd like to ask Dean Devlin, the KTRS text lines are open, 84126. Just make sure you say, hi, this is Brian from Chesterfield, so I know who it's coming from, and whatever your question is for Dean, and we can pass that question along here. Again, the text line, 84126 from your mobile or smart device. With this being, it just dropped, so obviously you probably haven't gotten a lot of numbers back, but I've seen just the outpouring of love from the fans, and it's obvious that the cast loved coming back and doing this. When will you know whether or not we might get a season 2?
I have no idea.
Okay.
I have no idea. I mean, right now, I'm just grateful. We've got like a 93 Rotten Tomatoes score, which I don't think I've ever had on anything I've ever done before. And then to see this fan reaction, look, I will happily confess to you that, for about the last 5 months, I had a low-grade sense of terror that the fans were going to go, this isn't leverage. We don't like this version of the show. And then to get the exact opposite reaction, where it's an avalanche of love and support, it's we're on such a high right now. The cast, the writers, the crew. I got a call from someone in the art department the other day who said, I finally got to actually see the show we've been making for the last year, and they were just so proud to be part of it and so excited that everyone they knew was watching it and calling them and praising it. So. I'm very hopeful we get a second season. I can't imagine why they wouldn't want one, considering this tremendous response. But to be honest, the greatest thing is that the fans who have supported the show all these years, they're loving the show, and that means more than anything.
And I'm sure it's a slightly different game when you're on a network versus when you're just strictly streaming. I assume they look at different parameters, different numbers, different variables to decide whether or not they'll go with a second season. So again, you mentioned earlier how it's kind of new territory for you as far as the streaming stuff goes. Am I right in saying that it might be just some different set of variables than what a normal network show would have to look at?
Yeah, to be honest, I have no idea how they evaluate it. I would imagine it's a combination of how many people are watching it and how long do they keep watching it. In other words, is this just one big weekend, or are people still watching this 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks into it? So I'm not sure what their metrics are. Everyone I've spoken to seems to be elated over the response. So, I'm just sitting back waiting to hear from them. But, in the meantime, if you like the show, keep watching it. The more people are watching it, the longer they're watching it, I'm sure that's all going to resonate. Oh, and go on IMDb TV and rate the show.
Yes, absolutely. I know they take a big look at that on the websites as well. So, if you're listening right now, all those things, stream it. If you want to just pull it up on your computer and have it in the background. Most people are still working from home, so why not? Watch it while you're, on a boring Zoom call or a conference call for work. That'd be another way to help the algorithm, I'm sure. But you've got a lot of other stuff going on. I know this is the 25th anniversary of Independence Day, which that's got to be a surreal moment as well, because in my mind, it does not seem like it's been 24 years since I saw Independence Day come out in theaters.
It's nuts. It's nuts. In fact, there was an article that I just kind of reposted on Twitter that had photographs from the premiere from 25 years ago. And I was looking at these photographs, and half the people in the photographs, I was like, I didn't know they were at the premiere. Robin Williams was at the premiere, really? I guess I was so overwhelmed that night that I missed out on half the celebrities who showed up.
I'm sure. That's kind of like Mitch was just talking about having this convention. It's kind of like having your wedding day. You're there, you're present, you're having this thing, but you don't really remember a lot of the stuff that happened.
That's right. All I remember on that was that it was one of those rare experiences where everything went right.
Wow,
and
great.
That just never happens. You know, I mean, the entire time we made that movie, I kept waiting for the other shoe to fall. I kept waiting for the bad news, and it just never happened. And, you know, that's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, and I'm so grateful that I got to be part of it.
Absolutely. And we had a question come in on the text line. It's from the 321 area code. They want to know how did you work through 7 hurricanes? Were there 7 hurricanes while you were filming Leverage this season?
Well, there were 4 hurricanes, but there was 8 shutdowns.
Oh, okay.
Because there were several other times where they thought a hurricane might come, and then we had to shut down just in case, so that people weren't trapped, you know, on the road or whatever. So yeah, eight times we had to shut down production, which was crazy because I've been in New Orleans many times on other shoots, and I've never had to shut down before. So it was just like, really, COVID is not enough. We also have to have eight hurricane shutdowns. No, it was the most difficult production I've ever been part of, and I'm so pleased that you can't really see that when you watch the episodes.
So between the wrath of nature and a plague, I think if the river had turned to blood, you might want to clear out and maybe find a new city to do the production in. At that point,
I was waiting for it to start raining frogs and locusts.
Who knows? We're going to take our last commercial break. We're going to come back and finish our talk with Dean Devlin. Again, if you'd like to shoot us a text like that last person did, the text lines are 84126. We'll try to get your questions answered as we wrap things up here on Geek to Me Radio. Please stand by.
Hello. My name is Sylvester McCoy. I want you to listen to Geek to Me Radio. Otherwise, if you don't, I'll cry.
We are back. We need to tell you about our premier sponsor, the City of St. Charles, the Greater St. Charles Convention and Visitors Bureau. A great place to visit no matter where you're from. If you are from outside the Greater St. Louis, St. Charles listening area, and maybe you want to get out and plan a trip now that things are opening back up, check out the website, discoverstcharles.com, discoverstcharles.com. If you're a foodie, if you're a history buff, if you want unique shopping and dining experiences, St. Charles has you covered, and you can come, you can stay at world-class accommodations or charming little bed and breakfasts. They've got all the different aspects, and we just were out there. It was gorgeous weather this weekend. You can bike ride the Katy Trail if you're here locally, rent a bike at the Bike Stop Cafe. They've got vegan lunch. You can go to Salt and Smoke if you'd like some barbecue. Great cocktails at Tompkins House, and then finish it off down the street at the Sweet Shop with a gooey butter milkshake. If you're from St. Louis, you know how good that sounds. If you're from outside St. Louis, you might be wondering what a gooey butter milkshake is. Don't knock it until you tried it. It's great. Lots of things to see and do. They've got festivals coming up. They've got Legends and Lanterns. If you're a Halloween fan, check that out, coming in the last 3 weekends of October. And, of course, the longest-running Christmas festival in the country happens after Thanksgiving, running through Christmas. Christmas Traditions, huge festival there as well. There's always something to see and do in St. Charles. Plan your trip, whether you're local or from out of town. Go to the website, discoverstcharles.com, discoverstcharles.com for an historically good time. We just had the voice of the 7th Doctor, Sylvester McCoy, bringing us back. If you had the chance, Dean, if you could take any living doctor and you could put him in an episode of Leverage, I know you've worked with David Tennant when you did Bad Samaritan, which I still, brilliant film, love that. Who would you pick as you could work him in as any character you wanted?
Well, obviously it has to be David Tennant, the 10th Doctor, because, I just loved working with him. I loved watching him on the show. And then then I think it would be a tie in second place between Matt Smith and Tom Baker. Tom Baker was my first Doctor. That's why I fell in love with Doctor Who. But I got to say Matt Smith really knocked it out of the park as well.
Yeah. Yeah, they've it's one of those shows that just it's endured for so long, and I'm still surprised by some people who haven't seen it. It's kind of hard to believe at this point with its 56-year history.
It's incredible. It's just incredible how the longevity of that show and how fresh it stays. And the new version, I think, is also terrific. Going for a woman to play the Doctor was a bold choice, and I think she's killing it. I think she's doing a great job.
Yeah, I do too. Jodie Whittaker has been phenomenal in the role. Talking about another series that you worked on, which I loved, that was the last time we had you on, was to talk about Almost Paradise, also starring Christian Kane. People, it's hard to say, well, we'll never get another season because now we've got Leverage back after, I think, nearly a 10-year hiatus. Is there any word about a possible second season debuting somewhere of Almost Paradise?
Well, we moved the show over to IMDb TV, and it has been a gigantic success.
Great.
We put it on IMDb. We put it on IMDb TV back in February, and we've been consistently every single week in the top 15 shows, and very often in the top 5. So, we're hoping that when IMDb decides to renew Leverage, it will also give us a second season of Almost Paradise. So our fingers are tightly crossed that they see it our way.
So then you'll be filming, you'll be working on the Outpost, and then you'll also have Leverage as season 2 and season 2 of Almost Paradise. That's a lot to be doing. You're doing in the Philippines. You'll be going over there for the second season of Almost Paradise. That seems like a lot.
Oh, it's not enough. We want to get some other shows going too.
Okay.
Look, during the pandemic, we were able to make 54 hours of television, which I think is, it's got to be a record.
No kidding.
So if we could do 54 hours of television on 3 TV series during a pandemic, when the curtain lifts, I think we could do even more.
So with Electric Entertainment, all this stuff, and we should mention, too, tell them about the Electric Entertainment app, because you can get that for your smartphone. I've got it on mine. Talk a little bit about that, if you would.
So about a little more than a year ago, we launched a beta version of our streaming website. It's called Electric Now. And basically, we just realized that we have these amazing fan groups for librarians, amazing fan groups for Leverage, amazing fan groups for Almost Paradise, amazing fan group for Leverage, but they didn't necessarily know each other. So we thought, let's create our own streaming platform where we can aggregate our fans all together and then be able to promote from there anything that we're doing new. And I think it's been really helpful. I think, people who loved The Outpost suddenly discovered Almost Paradise, and then they showed up on IMDb to watch, the show go. So it's been really an interesting experiment. We're about to go into our first launch of the final version of the app, but it's free, and you can download it on almost any platform. And even if you can't get the app, the live channel plays on almost every place that has streaming live channels.
And we had another question come in on the KTRS text lines. It's from a 408 area code. They said, if Leverage Redemption does get a second season, have you given any thoughts? Will it also continue in New Orleans, or will you move cities possibly?
Well, I think we'd like to stay in New Orleans if we can. A lot of that will be a function of soundstage space and cost. But we still got a lot of stories that we want to tell out of Louisiana. So I hope we do. I hope that's what happens.
Me too. Like I said, it's a beautiful city, and it's almost whenever you film anything in New Orleans, I feel like it's almost a character unto itself that kind of plays into whatever the story or the series or the movie is. I can't imagine a better place to film. And as we're wrapping up here, we've got just like 30 seconds or so left. Tell people where they can find you online, keep up with you, and what else they can look forward to.
I've got an official Facebook page. I'm on Twitter under, I think it's official Dean Devlin. Actually, I don't even know. but if you just do a hashtag search for Leverage Redemption on whatever your platform is, I'm sure I will pop up.
Yes, and Leverage Redemption also has their own Twitter page as well. I noticed that recently, too. And, again, Almost Paradise is also on Twitter. And keep watching these shows on IMDb, because that's obviously going to help the metric to make sure we get more seasons of these shows. Dean Devlin, I can't thank you enough for your time tonight. It's always a pleasure to have you on, and hopefully we can get you back on to talk about Season 2 of both those projects.
I like it. Thanks for having me on.
Anytime. Be well. And thank you all for listening tonight on Geek to Me Radio. We'll be back next week talking all about James Bond. So stick around for that. We've got another trivia night planned for September. We're going to be doing Star Wars trivia, so stay tuned for that. And our big What If show starring Tom Brevoort, Marvel Comics former editor, talking all about our favorite What If episodes right before What If drops on Disney+. Until next week, my friends. Thank you, New Orleans. Good night.
Hey kids, are your parents about to buy you a shiny new toy from Amazon?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Well, don't be selfish. Share some of that money with us. Before going on Amazon, make sure to type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser. It will look just like Amazon.com, except it'll say referral Geek to Me Radio up top. And then when you check out, a tiny percentage will go to support the show without costing you 1 cent more. So before your parents get you that gizmo, gadget, or widget, make sure they type in bit.ly/geek2me in the web browser.
bit.ly/geek2me, bit.ly/geek2me.